Good evening, everyone. This is Aman Sanduja from Zubi. We have people who are joining in, so we would be starting in another 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you so much. By the time you can grab your coffee, you can grab water, because this will be an interesting session. And I want all of you to participate and have your queries answered in this webinar. So we'll start another 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you. I want all of you to participate in this webinar. So you can shoot out your questions, and I will try my best to answer them during the webinar or towards the conclusion. So feel free to type out your questions. I can definitely look at it, and we'll start another couple of minutes. So people have started putting down their questions. Of course, I'll try and answer them. Hi, Mashood. Hi, everyone. All right. So without the further ado and without the further delay, let's start this discussion on cryptocurrencies. And I'm sure you're excited for this webinar, and you are looking to learn the different insights, and you're looking to have your different questions answered, and you have a perspective for cryptocurrencies in India, especially from the regulation point of view. So just to give and highlight, so I'll try and have this session from a perspective of a layman understanding, and I'll try my best to answer these questions, whatever you are posting. And I'll try to cover the cryptocurrency scenario, like why there was a need of cryptocurrencies and why cryptocurrencies have started their what you call fundamental aspects, and what are the different properties, and how you can either buy cryptocurrencies or do a mining, and when you are trading, what are the certain things to look at it. So this webinar is ideally the intro to digital assets course, which we would be launching somewhere in the second week or third week of April. And in the digital assets course, we would be teaching you in-depth understanding of cryptocurrencies and how you can trade them and how you can make your decisions more informed, whether you're trading in cryptocurrency exchanges, or whether you are having some projects in the crypto, how you can make some of your decisions more informed. So this is an intro webinar to digital assets, which will further point it out to the course. And any queries you have, you can post it either on our Telegram channel and on the chat as well. So I'll begin my presentation to just give you a background of what we are doing. So my name is Aman Sanduja, and I'm a co-founder with Zubi. I feel that I am an engineer by chance and an entrepreneur by choice. I'm one of the early adopters of cryptocurrencies in India. I'm also the TEDx speaker, and I've traded and managed cryptocurrency portfolio, and I've taught 3,000 plus student professionals across various emerging technology domain. And you might be having this question in mind of what Zubi is all about, since you represent this organization, Zubi. So Zubi is a platform where we are trying to equip you with emerging technology skills with a blend of 21st century skills. And we are a group of millennials who have started this organization. Best part about the organization Zubi is we have 26 people, and all these 26 people are working out of the remote location, and we are not really having any problems in this pandemic as well. Of course, we are coordinating through various effective platforms. So we have won Student Startup of the Year by Government of Odisha, and we have presented ourselves in various hackathons and presentations. One of the conference was organized by World Bank as well. So the idea of Zubi is how we can actually make emerging technology education accessible for all. And we wanted to do this by launching certain emerging technology courses, which are very much personalized for you. And we believe that everyone has a different style of learning. So we are taking care, and we are doing a lot of research in that domain as well. So I have already shared my background, and I've already talked about the organization which I represent. But if you look at why we are here and what we would be talking about, I wanted to share these statistics which I was recently reading about, that the trust in the NGOs, which are the non-profits, are declining. We all have contributed our money to Prime Minister Relief Fund and to Prime Minister Care Fund as well, to handle the situation of Corona. And we have donated in the past for disaster relief funds. But do you have the surety, and do you have the complete trust that your fund or the money which you have contributed is actually going for the right purpose? And if you look at it, what's the ground reality? 820 million people in the world suffer from hunger. They do not really have the money to buy the food, and they are living on below poverty line, and do not really have the sufficient money to even avail one meal per day. And the other reality is 50% unbanked adults exist in 7 economies. And if you look at the situation of India, close to 16 to 18% do not really have the bank account. And we have people who have been playing with the banking institution. We have read about Nirav Modi. We have read about this Yes Bank fiasco as well. So These are some of the ground reality. I wanted to understand what's happening around you, and if you look at what's happening around you, you also end up going to the marketplace where you buy organic fruits and vegetables. So are you really sure that the price you're paying for organic fruits and vegetable is giving you the surety or a trust that these vegetables or fruits are 100% organic? Same happens with my experience in my life as well. So if I look at uh, uh, the apparels which I wear, so my watchmen also wear US Polo T-shirt and the branded stuff. So how do I trust that whether I'm paying the 100% premium for these apparels, and these are giving me the surety that they're 100% original or genuine products? So these questions have started coming out in the market recently, and we all millennials have questioned from various walks of life. Either it comes from our lifestyle, or either it comes from any kind of a digital activity which we are doing. And we all use mobile phones. So we I usually ask this question whenever I go for my conferences and whenever I go for the interviews, that if you are using an iPhone, what is more valuable? Is your phone more valuable, or your data inside? And your data is with the institutions which you do not really have a control. So why cryptocurrency was started, and why there was a lot of discussions around certain financial aspect, and cryptocurrencies was one of the mediums to look at it to solve problems from the perspective of bringing the financial inclusion in the world. Like everyone should have an access. I'm sharing this story in 2013. One of our previous watchmen has reached out to us and said, "Sir, there is an emergency in my family. Could you transfer 5,000 rupees?" We said, "We would love to transfer, but it's Friday, and if we transfer on Friday evening, your bank account in your hometown, you would receive it by Monday or Tuesday." These I'm talking before the Paytms and before the UPIs of the world. So these challenges still exist, and I'm talking about the local transfer which is happening in India. If you look at the transfer from the western part of the world to a native country like India, you have 16% of diaspora, the people who are working in foreign countries, who send the money to the family. And remittances takes about 3 to 5 days, and if you're sending $1,000, the other party or your family might end up receiving only 900 some dollars. You would end up losing some amount this as a part of the settlement. But if you want to send only $10, these banks and these institutions who are transferring your money would not even look at it that you have the micro transaction going on, because they end up charging a lot of fees in between. So these are the stats and the ground reality which I'm sharing with you. 25% of the drugs are counterfeit in India. You never know if you're buying a paracetamol from a pharmacy shop. Is it really authentic? Is it really genuine? So you might end up eating the cotton candy as well. So a lot of questions have started coming out recently, after we have seen a lot of challenges, or a lot of setbacks or drawbacks of our system. And one in people suffer from identity fraud each year. So my identity, we all use Aadhaar card as a part of the transaction, and I am sharing my personal examples as well. So I have went to a hotel and actually given my fake Aadhaar card, which I've tampered it using the Photoshop. So um, hotels do not really have the validation to actually look at it whether my identity is original or not. So these are some of the ground realities which I'm trying to make you aware before we delve into the deeper discussions of cryptocurrency, just laying down the foundation so that you understand what's happening around me. And this webinar, I want that it should go back as a thought process of a critiquing rather than criticizing. So I'm critiquing what you call the institutions. I'm critiquing the certain things which are happening around my lifestyle, and I'm trying to make myself more aware, like how can I actually improve these things. So we will look at one of the mechanisms what crypto is doing, and these are the stats which we are looking at. 1.8 million jobs are expected to be lost by AI by 2020. So of course this numbers and these this year would turn out to be 2025 or 2020, 2030 because of this pandemic which we are seeing around the globe. But through Zubi, we are trying to actually bridge this gap. So you might be having a lot of questions and you might be looking at our website as well. So we are trying to bridge this gap because 1.2 million engineers who graduate every year, and only a single digit number of percentage have these skills which are required by the industries. So we are trying to do our best from a perspective that how we can give it something to our nation and actually solve the problem which exists in abundance. And 6.1% is the unemployment rate, which we have definitely read in different news publications. So if you look at what's happening around you, this is the scenario of this country called Venezuela. And if you look at what's happening in Venezuela, it's like 15 years back, the amount of cash which you used to have to buy a 1 BHK or 2 BHK, now you have to spend the equivalent amount of cash to buy a coffee. How this is happening? This is nothing but an inflation. Now just step back and go back to 1947 when India got its independence. US dollars to INR was close to 4.76 rupees. And now if you fast forward to 70-75 years, now we are now looking at the numbers of 73 or 74 rupees against a dollar. What is this? Aren't you scared? And I just did my basic research few months back that if we cross beyond 125 and 128, our economy possibly will crash. And look at the scenario of this pandemic across the globe. Few days back, the payment services uh, have stopped their operation. There was some server issue which was going on. If somebody is looking at transferring a money across the globe, if somebody wants to send out a money because there is an emergency in their native country, would they be able to do it instantly? So this inflation is one of the factors which causes the tripling effect, which actually shakes up the economy. And why inflation happens? We all used to buy dairy milk 3, 4, 5 years back. The size of 10 rupees dairy milk used to be, I mean, if you compare with 5 rupee, 10 rupee at this point in time, what is this happening? So inflation is nothing but, if I'm selling my iPhone and you all have 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees, I wish iPhone start getting sold at in this price. But if I'm selling any commodity or any phone at 1,000, 2,000 rupees, and if everyone has 2,000 rupees, what will I do? I'll try and increase the price of the commodity so that less people can afford. And inflation happens on various aspects if you talk from a perspective of economy. One is to match up the demand and supply. What happened on demonetization, if you look at? If I'll just go ahead and try and explain to you what has happened on the demonetization day. If you look at what has happened on the demonetization day, which is November 8th, 2016, we all have suffered the loss. We all have to go and stand in the lines of bank where we can deposit. So suddenly the currency of 500 rupees and 1,000 rupees suddenly became devalued. Why? Because how we have evolved from the past is we used to do a barter. Like if I have a tomato and if you have a potato, you can exchange tomatoes against potatoes. But the barter failed because the value of goods started not really having the equalization. If I'm giving you tomatoes and in return you have to give me a cow, how would you actually look at it? So from barter we moved to different currencies which was started using in the local communities, like we moved to the heavy metals. But from there we started looking at the paper currency. So paper currency started coming in, and from paper currency we looked at what you call the plastic money, which is your credit card and debit cards. And from there we looked at the digital money, and from there we are moving it to the digital currency. But in paper money also there are some loopholes. So the reason of doing demonetization, my point to try and make you understand is, the reason for doing a demonetization is we do not really have a control on the supply or the printing of the currency. You might be thinking that, Aman, this is there. I mean, government print currencies with respect to the gold which is there in the reserve. My dear, this has been removed by President Nixon in 1971. You might be aware of Bretton Woods conference. So this was removed. So now institutions and economies can print as per the requirement. Of course, different concepts come in the picture. So when you do not really have a control on the printing of a money, these kind of a situation exists. So like I'm talking about the Venezuela example, where people have to have load of cash to buy a commodity, and the currency have suddenly devalued. Like I said, the amount of a cash you require to buy the apartment possibly 15 years back, the same amount of a cash you require to buy a coffee. And if this much amount of a cash is required, then government have to print it a lot, and if they print it a lot, then again the devaluation of the currency will exist. So this is what I'm trying to make you understand, like what's happening around the globe. And it actually gives me a thought process every morning, that whether my future son or daughter would be able to avail the services which I am doing at this point in time. Because if the currency devalue start happening a lot, then even a rich has to move towards becoming a richest, and the middle class families and middle class population will have to suffer a lot. And now think about the lower bottom section of the society. What will happen to them? So if these kind of a thought process are not making you excited to work towards the economy, then whatever we are doing 9 to 5 job, and whatever we are doing in all walks of our life, this would not really improve the lifestyle, and this would not really have the sustainability towards our country. So these are the thought process which I wanted to convey through these kind of webinar, which we do it as a part of our series of Zubi. So like we started with press, we moved to an engine, we moved to an internet, and what blockchain can do. So you might be looking at, Aman, okay, the answer might be a digital currency, which is Bitcoin. But what happens with these digital currency and how they operate, and why they have started coming out in the market? Because when somebody who looked at the financial industry and somebody who looked at the different other industry have started questioning from a perspective of trust. Like I asked you a question, we all buy US Polo, we all buy branded clothes, we all trust the financial institution. The first thing which goes with the trust is the brand name and the brand value. And these brand names and brand values exist. But the major question still remains unanswered is, do we really have 100% trust on them? Like I said about the remittance as well. If the remittance do not happen, if somebody is sending a money from US to India, if it does not happen in 3 days, what would happen to your trust? And if you end up buying a fake medicine, or if you end up buying a fake organic fruit and vegetable, what will happen to the trust? So this trust have started getting depleting. Like I used to work with a non-profit, and I have seen people in the non-profit every second quarter, they used to buy lavish goods, and they used to have new cars every year. And I started questioning, Aman, are you really working for a non-profit, or is it a non-profit from a front end, and a lot of different things are happening at the back end from a perspective of making money? And the first slide which I've shown it to you is the trust in the non-profits are getting depleted. And if you look around in India specifically, 99% of the cases are against non-profits. And you do not really have a control what's happening to the money which you're contributing to these non-profits. You cannot really have the visibility. What then? Why are you contributing the money to these organizations and central parties? What they are doing with that money, if you cannot really have the end-to-end visibility? Same questions I asked with different financial institutions as well. So this trust is getting depleted across various verticals and across various facets, if you look at from a perspective of your life. And now when I talk about a trust, you should keep yourself at the center. And when you keep yourself at the center, you would be able to realize that yes, trust from the relationship and trust from the interaction with the institutions are getting depleted. And this trust has a value from $100 trillion to beyond, because if you look at healthcare industry, it's $8.6 trillion. If you look at shipping industry, it's again $10-15 trillion in market size. If you combine and look at the trust, it's $100 trillion in plus. And we all have witnessed Lehman Brothers, what has happened, 2008 financial crisis. The bank has collapsed. They have declared the bankruptcy. In order to understand more about this, you can watch this movie, which is there on Netflix and different other platforms. Not really endorsing it, but just telling you the Big Short. The Big Short would you would be able to understand what has happened with the mortgage loan, and these loans have started going against the banks, and banks have to declare the bankruptcy. And lot of things are happening around the financial institution. The Big Short movie, which I have mentioned, you can look at different movies as well, which will start giving you an idea of what's happening around the globe. Yes Bank fiasco, what's happening? I was speaking to my friend, I think he's on the webinar as well today. He said, Aman, I am literally stressed out. I have to pay the money to my uh, uh, vendors, and this bank has said you cannot withdraw more than 50,000, and I have went twice to this bank, and I do not really have a control on my money. And he had money in the bank which was not really a small amount. So your money, your hard earned work, you are keeping in an institution. They are not really allowing you to withdraw that money. They are not really allowing you to have a control on your money. So why I should keep my money in the bank if these kind of things? And Yes Bank is one. We have looked at PNC Bank as well. What's happening from the international perspective? We have looked at Venezuela, and now there is Swiss Bank history to the nation as well. So if these kind of things are happening around you, then don't you think the trust is depleting? And if the trust is depleting, how would you actually overcome with that? PNB fraud. We all know Mr. Nirav Modi, who has done a fraud of close to $2 billion. I mean, your hard-earned money you're keeping in the bank. Bank is acting as an institution to safeguard your money, but this gentleman comes from nowhere and try and play with the system from Allahabad Bank, the banks which are there in Hong Kong, and played with the letter of credit and end up taking $2 billion. What will happen to the airline businesses? What we've been reading from the Kingfisher Airlines perspective, what has been happening to other cases in India? Are we really bothered? Would they ever come back to their natural business line? So these trusts should actually act as a wake up call for you every morning, and should say that what am I doing, even in the industries, even in the various walks of life, even in my business. If I keep on doing all these things and dollar price started depleting, then would be able to do a justice to our life journey, what we have actually come on this mother earth. And we go back with the same thought process that maybe next generation would be able to solve it, maybe the next institution would be able to do it. And this mentality in India, which is very common, chalta hai boss. And if we will not have this wake up call and wake up thought process of actually safeguarding and kill this thought of chalta hai, and we will not have this motivation and a sense of collaboration that we will be able to do something to our nation, then we will always live in this kind of a pipeline where somebody will enter and somebody will take it out, and you would have no control on it. So barter to Bitcoin, and I have already given you a gist what happens over here, and we have moved from the certain goods which used to exchange to the paper currency. Then we have moved to the credit cards, which are plastic money, and in between that we have seen digital money as well, which was nothing but a paper money getting translated into the digital side of it. And we have seen Bitcoin coming out. So why Bitcoin? Before that, I wanted to actually make you understand with this example. Let's take an example. Aman Sanduja is giving an apple to Mr. Ram in the physical world. Aman can give an apple in the physical world and Ram can take it. Everyone can see that Aman's balance is -1, Ram's balance is +1. But what if I give an apple to Mr. Ram in the online world? How would Mr. Ram trust it? That this is the apple which is 100% authentic, 100% genuine. Aman has not taken a screenshot of this apple and sent it to Mr. Sham. Aman has not saved this image and sent it to Mr. Kumar. How would you actually trust? So internet provided a mechanism to have a borderless communication, but internet lack in the share of value. So this technology, which started in 2008 from the perspective of the digital currencies that you can send to anyone across the globe, you do not require a centralized institution to verify or validate the transaction. If Mr. Aman is sending the money to Mr. Ram, and Mr. Aman is in US and Mr. Sham or Mr. Ram is in India, Aman will send $100 to the bank and say that, "Hi, Mr. Bank, I want this money to be transferred to Mr. Sham in India." And bank will say that, "Okay, we will transfer, we will charge certain fees." Mr. Aman says that, "Okay, you can take some fees, but how much time will you take to transfer this money?" Mr. Bank says that, "We will take 3 to 5 days, but sorry, unfortunately, this is time of Christmas. We will not be able to proceed this transaction for next 1 week." Mr. Aman gets literally angry that I have to send my money to this person who is in India. How would I send it? Then he says that, "Okay, I will come back after 7 days." Then Mr. Raman goes to the bank once again and says that, "I have to send this now $200. Bank says that, "Okay, you have came last week as well. We were closed, but now we are operational. But if you want to send $200, we will charge $30-40 on top of it as the fees. So if you're sending $200, somebody would be able to receive $160, or your friend in India would be able to receive $160. Mr. Raman says, "What? If I am sending $200 and he would be able to receive $260, $160, then I have to send an additional $40 to have this transaction sent from one place to another? And would I be able to send the money if I send only $40 because that's their fees?" So same happens in the Indian economy as well. You cannot send the micro transaction apart from your Paytms and UPIs of the world, because the cost of verifying or validating a transaction is more than a micro transaction. So if you send 1 rupee, then the cost is beyond 1 rupee. It goes somewhere between 7 to 10 rupees. So Bitcoin started with the concept that you can send money across the globe without having any centralized institution, which is in case of your bank, who controls your money, and you can send this money from your wallet. You can actually become the CEO of your bank, where you control your money and you can send it to anyone across the globe. And how do you send it? We do not really have a network, or we do not really have a network of centralized institution, or we do not really have central or third parties. You send it to the network, and this network actually validates the transaction. So we'll not go in detail of this network, because this network has miners who are validating these transactions when you are sending money from one place to another, or from your wallet to someone. And same happened with the concept of Bitcoin when it was launched in 2008. It was one of the mechanism to actually what you call to actually revolt from a process, or from a perspective of trust, that you do not really have to trust an institution to send your money. You own it, you have it in your wallet, and you can keep it and you can send it whenever you want to do that. So same like you cannot copy this 100 rupees or $100, same you cannot copy that Bitcoin. And talking from a perspective of inflation, like why inflation exists, because you do not really have a control on the printing of the money. This person who started Bitcoin in 2009 came with the perspective that I need to fix the total supply of Bitcoin. So you have 21 million Bitcoins which will be generated through the process of mining in next 100 years, or in next 80 years, I would say that. He said that by 2100 you would have all the Bitcoins, and the 21 million Bitcoins will be the total supply. And we have seen Bitcoin applications in the last 11 years coming out a lot. And he said there is no asset backing, like you do not really have an asset backing in the paper currency as well. In the cryptocurrency also, there is no asset backing. The trust and the asset is the network, which is these miners who are validating the transaction. So you cannot double spend it. So what is the future of money? So Bitcoin we have looked at. He wrote a white paper. You can read this Bitcoin white paper if you go online and type Bitcoin white paper. You will be able to read it. So he said that you control that money, and there are various processes that you validate a transaction. Who validates a transaction? What is this block? What happens in each of the block? And then who validate these transactions? If somebody is validating a transaction, what is the incentive of validating a transaction? So there are a lot of things which goes from the technicalities and functionalities point of view, which we will cover in the courses which we are launching. So you can subscribe to our community and you can join it. We keep on sending the updates to our people who are part of our network, who are part of our community, through various exercises of newsletters and community engagement. So we will be launching courses where we will be describing in detail like what happens on each of the transaction if somebody is validating a transaction, and how this transaction goes to a block, and then what is an incentive for someone to actually validate a transaction. So in a nutshell, there are participants. Like if you send a check, you drop the check in a check box, and the bank manager picks a check and validate that this check, which has been written by Mr. Aman to Mr. Ram, is validated because Mr. Aman is the existing member of the bank, and then Mr. Aman is sending 2000 rupees, which is more than or which is less than his bank balance, and then the person he's sending to is also a part of the other banking entity, and then the signature which Mr. Aman has done on the check is valid, and the bank will validate the transaction and do that. So same happens in the Bitcoin network as well. Like you will be able to validate the transaction, who are all the participants, and then if they validate the transaction, they earn some transaction fees, which is a part of the transaction if you're making from one person to another. So Bitcoin actually was started with a revolt on financial institutions, that these financial institutions control your money. These financial institutions do not let the microtransactions happen. These financial institutions are trying to complement the economy from various other perspectives, and it's not really good for the nation. And you do not really have a control when you have to send a transaction on the weekday or on the weekend or a holiday. You have to be dependent on these institutions. So this person started and is still anonymous, because had he revealed his identity, then a lot of institutions who are not really thinking Bitcoin from the friendliness of the economy would not allow him to actually live, and ask him to not really have this what you call uh, evangelization of Bitcoin. So now Bitcoin network is 100% decentralized. It's not really owned by anyone, and all the participants who are part of the network usually maintain this network. So a lot of people must be thinking of a question: is Bitcoin legal or illegal? I would say that legal or illegality remains a question from a country's point of view. And it's like you cannot turn off an internet. Similarly, you cannot turn off a Bitcoin. In order to turn off a Bitcoin, you need to turn off each and every participant who is a part of this network. And this network is nothing but called as a blockchain. So you might be having a question of, Aman, you have explained us what blockchain is in a very brief manner, and you have explained us Bitcoin. We understand Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer currency which you can send from one person to another. But what is blockchain? So the classical example to understand blockchain is, imagine you have a ledger or you have a notebook in your house, and this notebook is being maintained from your grandfather's time or your great grandfather's time. That how much money your great grandfather used to earn, he used to write every month in that notebook, and how much money your great grandmother used to give it to the maid, she used to write. So this is nothing but a notebook, which I would call it as a ledger in a more formal manner. So it's nothing but a notebook which every other participant who has taken a money or who has put a money in that what you call a common account of the house, he or she has to write it. And if this notebook is not really maintained by anyone, this is maintained by all the participants who are there in the network. Suppose your family, your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your grandmother, your anyone who is a part of the family is maintaining this notebook. So this notebook will keep a track of how much is the total balance of the family fund and how much money has already went out. And all the people who are there in your family can actually see what's happening in this family fund, how much somebody has contributed and how much somebody has taken out. So this notebook is nothing but a ledger which keeps a track or keeps the complete understanding of the transactions which are happening. So this notebook is known as blockchain, which is a distributed ledger. Like nobody is maintaining it. Everyone who is a part of the system actually are warriors, or actually are the ones who are taking care of that notebook or a ledger. So Bitcoin, like email is the first application to from for internet. Similarly, Bitcoin is the first application of blockchain. So it started as the experiment from a peer-to-peer currency point of view, and now it has taken the global scenario from the journey which has Bitcoin has taken from in 11 years. So people have spent Bitcoin to buy pizzas, and when this person has purchased Bitcoin into this person has purchased pizza with Bitcoin. It was valued at $25, and we have seen Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market cap going from uh, I mean, in my journey, I have seen going from $30 billion to $800 billion, and I think right now it's close to $200 billion because of this pandemic across the globe. So people have bought Bitcoin, and you might be having a question, Aman. How can I buy Bitcoin? It looks interesting. It looks lucrative, and I have understood from a trust point of view. And I think this is the future when somebody have to have a financial transaction. Of course, these questions will definitely be answered. So these are some of the facts which has happened with the spending of a Bitcoin. Because, and I believe had he has not bought a pizza, he would have not been this much famous in the market. Because spending 10,000 Bitcoins to buy a pizza, I mean, you look at the fun fact, it was $92 million in January 2020. I mean, this year, you can actually buy the different pizza chains rather than buying a single pizza by giving 10,000 Bitcoins. So it actually started in the market as the transaction which can happen for a commodity exchange, which is why we have looked at barter to Bitcoin. So there are a lot of cryptocurrencies which has now come up in the market. Now this is not only the cryptocurrencies, and like I've explained it, you have a block, you have different transactions in it, and somebody who wants to learn this in detail, you would be letting you know for the different courses which we are launching, and also the part of the newsletters. We keep on decoding these terms for better understanding of you. So the market size, there are about 3,000 plus cryptocurrencies. We started with Bitcoin, and then we have Ethereum, Ripple, Tezos, we have Tron, we have cryptos which have come up, and every crypto has a different purpose. Like Ripple helps the banking institution in remittance. Ethereum lets developer create the application as a part of dApp. So they wanted to have a world computer where people can have applications run on it. So every cryptocurrency is like every commodity or a share which you have it in stock market. If you have a share of Tata Motors, the purpose of Tata Motors is to produce or manufacture the vehicles. If you have a share of ITC, it deals in FMCG. If you have a share of, let's take an example, a financial institution. And on the other hand, if you have a share of pharmaceutical company, they are either doing a research or having the healthcare innovation in specific domains. So there are about 3,000 plus cryptocurrencies so far in the market, and we right now it's $200 billion in market cap, with 65% held by the Bitcoin. So like you have large caps in stock market. Similarly, Bitcoin you can consider as one of the large cap in the cryptocurrency market. And $800 billion is the market cap. Was a market cap in 2018, which we have witnessed, and I personally have traded in this market. And Bitcoin went from, now look at the pizza transaction, $25, it went to $18,000. So Bitcoin has seen a long journey and a long way to actually getting from single digit to double digit, and now towards $18,000 or $19,000 as a price. I would call it as a price, not a value, because it doesn't have any asset backing. So there are about 200 plus exchanges like where you can buy the cryptocurrencies from. And since the internet started with a borderless communication, Bitcoin is, so from a perspective of money or currency which you can have from various exchanges, and you do not really have a wall or a limitation or restriction to trade, not to trade on the exchanges which are not really from your perspective of your country. And there are about 4.6 million crypto traders in Asia, which was about 46 lakhs, and 3.1 million crypto traders. Now you might be wondering how many crypto traders and crypto users are there. From my last research, it was 45 million, which was 4.5 crores. Traders and users are there across the globe. And if you look at 45 million, you have 10% traders are there from the Asian market. And India contributes close to a million to slightly above a million traders in India, users and traders in India. You have 3.5 million traders and users in Europe, and 70% of this trading market is represented by 18 to 34 years of age group. So it's possibly the youngest band which is trying to make this market successful, because we started crippling down and started critiquing or having the thought process from a perspective of trust. So this young audience is trying to take this benefit of this volatile market and of this market which will actually revolutionize the future and disrupt various other industries, from the financial industry to various other industries where there is a question of trust. And 59% of crypto traders, 59% of women traders who prefer cryptocurrency as an instrument to trade. So it is not really a male dominant industry. You have the open doors from different gender equality aspect. And you might be having questions, like where can I buy the cryptocurrencies or the different digital assets which we have. So you can buy it on different exchanges. In India, we also have CoinDCX and WazirX, which is allowing you to buy cryptocurrencies, and you can upload your identity documents, because you should not really have the money which is not accountable from a perspective of financial institution. And once your identity validation is done from a KYC perspective, you can trade and buy cryptocurrencies. So you might be wondering that I really do not know what trading is. Aman, I understand I can purchase cryptocurrency, but what should I do with that? So you can either hold it, which are called long-term investors. You can hold it, you can buy and do not really trade. But you wanted to trade, then you wanted to have certain knowledge of trading, either from a fundamental point of view or either from a technical point of view. So you might be wondering, I have heard a lot about trading, but I still have a fear. Of course, the risk is there in the market, and you have to watch what's happening around the globe, and you need to keep an eye very closely. Like when I started trading in 2013, I have made good amount of money, but when there was a crash consecutive year, I have lost a good amount of money as well. But I was confident enough to actually exit or liquidate my positions at a right time. So this is what we would be teaching you in the courses as well, like how you can enter into a market at a substantial time by looking at various other factors, and then you can exit before it's too late to close your position. Like me and one of my friends were talking in January, and he's a trader in crypto and stock market as well. And I gave him one of the insights that if this corona outbreak happens from one geography or one nation to another, then you might have to liquidate all your positions by end of January. And I think he was thankful enough to actually close down all his position, because in February onwards or early March or late February, the market started crashing both in cryptos and the stock market. So there are various aspects. You look at fundamentals. Fundamentals are nothing but what are the events around that company or an organization is happening. Like I said, each and every cryptocurrency has different purpose or different business line of value behind it. So you need to look at it whether this company has announced a partnership with someone, whether this company has raised some investment, whether this company has bought another company. So everything which is not related from the technical point of view, everything which helps you make a decision from the business angle, wherein what all things which are happening from a company's point of view are fall under the fundamental analysis. And anything which is related to these charts, where you have to read these charts, what this candle actually signifies. If there was a long candle, so the trade positions have started coming in, and if we see the three red candles together, so what is the significance of that? So anything which relates from different technical studies, where you have different technical indicators and different technical studies, like relative strength index. So what is the strength of this graph, and what is the strength of the trade? And then you have Bollinger Bands, then you have MACD, you have multiple study templates. And if somebody is enrolling for the course which we would be starting, I would be teaching you each and every study template which would help you to take a decision in the trading and help you become better at trading. Of course, we don't really guarantee that you would be able to do the 100% correct, because markets are dynamic in nature. They change their trends and patterns, but we are confident that you would be able to take the decisions more confidently, and once you go through all these study templates and studies. So these all things fall under the technical analysis, and always look at the fundamental and technical analysis very closely, because he needs to understand the charts. And you might be having question that I'm not able to understand these charts, what will happen? So you have wallets, like you can send currencies from your wallet, like you store the money in your wallets, in digital money like Paytm and Google Pay. All these are wallets. You can store the cryptocurrencies in your wallets as well. And the other way to actually have the cryptocurrencies is through mining. And mining at this point in time is not really profitable, because the price of each cryptocurrency does not really have a good value what it used to be there long back. So mining is not profitable, and mining used to happen. So what is mining? Mining is like you are validating a transaction or solving a puzzle. So if there is a puzzle called 4x is equal to 100, you might be able to answer that the value of x is 25. But if the puzzle is 4x cube plus 200x square root plus 1/4 of 4x plus something is equal to 50, then you would require some time to find out the value of x. So similarly happens in mining. You are validating a transaction by finding the value of x. So if the value of x when cryptocurrency was started was very low, you can find it. But now the value of x has now become difficult. The problem has now become difficult. So you need to contribute a lot of power to solve that problem. So like mining used to happen, you might have read, it started with CPU. Anyone has a computer at home can mine or validate the transaction. But now the problem has become so difficult that you need a lot of hardware and infrastructure to validate or mine or to solve that problem. So from CPU, we move to GPU, which are graphical processing unit. And then GPUs also could not really find the value of x in this case to move ahead. Then we move to application specific integrated circuits. Then application in specific integrated circuits could not really address, because the problem again went beyond and started getting difficult. So you need to do pool mining. So there are a lot of farms or mining pools which are there, which validates the transaction. Like this, I have said it. So each machine is nothing but called application specific integrated circuit. So now you have pool of machine, you have stacks of machine, which helps to validate or solve these transactions. So you can look at this site, which is what to mine, which can help you. And then you would be having questions like how we can actually find it, which coin has a good hash rate. So you need a hashing power to validate these transactions. Again, not going in detail. If you have any questions, you can shoot it out on our community and ask us in the next webinar or course, which we would do that, or you can ask us right now as well. Now, the major question which remains unanswered or creating a curiosity in India amongst a lot of participants is cryptocurrency legal? So again, like I said, legal or illegal depends from the country's specification. And why cryptocurrency is not getting legal in India? You need to understand, it's not about taking a decision. Government is also trying its best. It's the population of 1.35 billion, and our major economy works and run on cash. And if it works and run on cash, even if 50% of the population uses 100 rupees of cash every day to buy utility, and if we do not really have a strong, stringent, strong process of validating or understanding that this person who is coming to buy a Bitcoin, his KYC is authentic or his KYC is 100% genuine, then we are adding another layer of black money through the cash which happens in OTC market. So right now, the regulation, the on 4th of March, Supreme Court has uplifted the ban which was there by RBI, that you do not really have these currencies as a part of assets to trade. So Supreme Court has uplifted, but they have said the banks have to be literally cautious when they are allowing some transact money from their bank account to the cryptocurrency exchanges in the background. So these exchanges who are operating in India and geographies as well are trying to enable their, and I think a couple of exchanges who are working in India, they've already have the KYC, which is very strong in nature. So the KYC plays an important role whenever you are getting onboarded to any of the financial institution to actually trade, or any of the exchanges to actually trade or buy cryptocurrency. The legality from the nationwide adoption will happen very soon and very quickly. However, there are exchanges which are allowing you to operate or to transact cryptos when you do your process of KYC. So that's all from my side as the quick thing on the digital assets webinar. And if you go in detail, 1 hour sufficient to actually help you understand the digital assets in detail. So this is just a teaser which you can understand, or this is a teaser just to create an excitement or have this thought process in you that okay, now I understand the have the basic understanding or primary understanding of digital assets. And if I wanted to actually uh, uh, learn deeper or in detail, I can subscribe to the course which these guys would be offering. And some of our courses would be free, so we are not really saying that you need to pay for that. So some of the lectures of the courses would be free, and you can learn from our industry experts, and I would be teaching as well on that course. So what Zubi is trying to do in this age of 21st century, where you have a lot of us in new emerging technologies are coming up, so we are trying to upgrade your skill set, and we want that you should succeed in this emerging technology market. And we are trying our best, like I said, to come up with courses which are very much personalized for you. And we believe that everyone has a different way of learning and actually contributing to the ecosystem. So I'm open for the questions, and this is my uh, handle that you can look at it. Like you can subscribe us, or you can join us on the Telegram handle, and you can be a part of our forum, which is nothing but a community where we keep on discussing. And you can also register for our newsletter, which I think one of my participants will be posting it out in the chat box as well. And should you have any questions, I'm easy to locate on different social media platforms, and you can just look at me on LinkedIn. And if you have any specific questions where you want these answers to be communicated or discussed, you can write it out on aman@zubi.io. And happy to get on a call, or happy to have your questions answered. And we understand that this is a time where you would be having a lot of inquisitiveness from the perspective of crypto, and this 1 hour will not be sufficient to actually address everything. So anything you have, I'll move it on to the questions now. I understand, Mridul. We would keep it technical because there was a lot of request from the participants that you need to move ahead from the basic fundamentals towards a little technicalities. However, we will simplify it and we'll make it easier for you. I'll just browse for the other questions. Please enlighten us about cryptocurrency and status in India. Like I said, the regulations are not really too far from having the nationwide adoption. Of course, the ban has been uplifted. So the Supreme Court has recently lashed out the RBI ban, which was there in April 2018. So March 4th, we have actually seen sort of a sunshine for cryptos. However, the major question remains from the KYC and banking and financial institution, because they should allow us to transact our money to these cryptocurrencies exchanges where we can buy. Okay, so best cryptocurrencies to invest. I'm not really biased. You need to do your study. So in the course as well, we would be covering out how do you evaluate which company to invest or which currency to look at it. Same like you do it your understanding, or you do your research in the stock market as well. And we would let you look at what are the different factors which you should look at before actually putting your money in cryptocurrencies. Is it really safe to invest in crypto? Of course, but you should understand. Okay, so one thing which I usually say to everyone, and one thing I usually say to the people wherever I go and speak, before you spend the money in cryptocurrencies, or before you spend the money in digital assets, you should spend in the learning, and you should spend in understanding what these digital assets or cryptocurrency is all about. Once you have understood, then it would be an informed decisions to go ahead and invest your money in cryptocurrencies or different digital assets. So yes, it is safe to invest, but however, Alan, I would request you to go ahead and look at these crypto assets and the fundamental aspects in detail before you actually invest your money in this. For countries like India and Venezuela, electricity is an important commodity. Is important everywhere? Absolutely, it is. Yes. So one question which you might can ask from a perspective of Bitcoin as well. So you can you are validating a transaction where you require a large infrastructures who are utilizing this electricity. So yes, Bitcoin is not really contributing towards a sustainable way of doing mining. So there are consensus where things are moving from proof of work to proof of stake. So happy to take these things when it comes to the deeper section or the extended courses. So which would be the stable to trade it with electricity? So energy. Which sorry for a stable peer-to-peer, which currency blockchain do you suggest to use? Again, I'm not really biased towards any currency or digital assets. You can trade different like assets, and there are coins which have come up as part of the peer-to-peer energy trading as well. Like Power is one of them. Power Ledger is the blockchain which they have it. So again, it depends on what kind of what kind of a returns you're looking at, and do you understand the specific business? Like same goes with the understanding of stock market as well. On which bank should I invest in? So if you look at the different functionalities, what kind of books they have in terms of the revenue generation, and what kinds of the advances they are giving. So it depends on your personal requirement, and it depends from a perspective of once you understand a digital asset, and then you can take it further. What do you say about WazirX? So I'm not really sure what to say about WazirX, but yes, it's one of the interesting exchanges to working very hard to build up a community, and the founder is well known in the market. So yes, the exchange is doing pretty well, and I think they have seen the plunge in the volume recently. So I'm closely watching WazirX and CoinDCX in India. All right. So what about the regulation? I have tried and answer. Is it okay for miners to do the validation? Is it okay? Mr. Sai Karun, Mr. Sai Karun Baliwada, would be great if you can help me answer your questions. So now there are multiple cryptos. How do you communicate to each other? How do they communicate to each other? Okay, so it goes from a perspective of blockchain and then interoperability in blockchain, and how they're communicating with each other. One transaction communication is happening on the exchanges, and when business communication happens, you need to look at how blockchains are talking to each other. So transaction communication, you can do it through exchanges. Like you can give your one type of crypto and buy the another type of crypto. There are exchanges, like this has been answered. And what causes the change in value of Bitcoin? Demand and supply is one. And majorly it's the demand and supply. Second is from the perspective of the problem which I explained. And if the problem is too not really hard to actually solve from miners, then you see the price value taking different. And mainly these are the different factors. Demand is one, because the supply is limited over here. Like 21 million bitcoins and 19 million bitcoins are already being generated. There are different fundamental causes to the price change and the value change, like the events which are being caused in this this lot of pandemic across the globe, and people have started taking out their money which they have invested in crypto, and they wanted to actually keep it safe so that they can exchange as a part of the fiat transaction. So as the adoption will increase, I think the stability will come more in the cryptocurrencies, and you would see less of a volatility, and the demand will definitely shoot up the price. And I would not really answer on the question, then can you expect a $1 million price of Bitcoin? I don't really think so. And over a period of time, it depends on what kind of regulations and what kind of users are coming in. Okay, so high volatility is due to the low liquidity. We have it on the exchanges today. High volatility is from a short-term gains which people are looking at. If they see a price appreciation, they try and there are people who are known as sharks who pump these markets just to take the benefits from different trading activities which happens. Earlier said ban usage in India, but we're open to exploring blockchain. My question is how this viable given Bitcoin is an essential part of the blockchain plan. Okay, you can have the blockchains without the cryptos as well. Like you have private permission blockchains, which are majorly used from the enterprise perspective. You don't really need the crypto assets enterprise side of it, which is why there is a difference. Like you have cryptocurrency and then you have tokens. And the tokens are two types: your utility tokens and security tokens. And within the security tokens, when you have an asset backing, suppose you have a painting which is $1 million in value, and you cannot buy that painting. You can do a fractional ownership of a painting, and then you can buy possibly $10,000 of that painting. And these assets actually are legal from a perspective of SEC, and a lot of legalization and regulation comes in the security token, and these are classified from the Howey test, which you have either their utility token or security token. So blockchains can exist without the crypto assets from a institutional point of view or from the industry use case. Why we have to give our details like Aadhaar card, sector, and an open account? KYC remains an integral part when you have to look at trading any asset, so that over a period of time, the taxing, the taxation can happen on the buy and sell of the crypto asset. So you have long-term and short-term capital gains. So this is why your KYC plays an important role. Thank you so much, Professor Vidhi, that you have complemented this webinar. And there are a lot of questions, I think, it has been unanswered. We'll take it. How do you see the position of cryptos in the next 5 years? I see the adoption will increase. The price would not really complement on the price of cryptocurrencies. However, we would see the appreciation over a period of time. And is your presentation, you always compare Bitcoin with USDT? I'm not sure how it's different in a commodity where price changes as a demand and supply. My apologies, Vineet. Happy to look at this in detail offline. A little too technical, I understand. We would have which would be the stable enough to trade it with electricity? I've already answered. Okay, so I'll conclude this. Further, you have any questions, you can type it out on our community. Feel free to join our newsletters. Feel free to join our community. We would keep you posted on what all activities which we would be doing as a part of Zubi. So just to give another highlight on what we are trying to do with the series of events, we are trying to bridge the gap. We are trying to bring out the different insights for emerging technologies through the different emerging technology leaders, and we would be answering your questions, which remain always unanswered whenever you go to any kind of an event. So this would be an interactive session as we go further, and we'll keep the suggestions in mind. And any questions which are unanswered, you can type it out on the community. Feel free to find us on the Telegram. Feel free to look at the forum, which we much active on different social medias platforms. And any questions you have it in specific, you can write it out to me on Aman at Zubi.io. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead, and please take care of yourself in this outbreak, and keep having a lot of warm water, and stay safe, stay home. Thank you.